What is up, YouTube family? This is AMK and you're watching Purple Sky 11. Happy Independence Day to everybody. I thought I'd give you something to watch while you have your day off. This is a video that I recorded back in May, and because I had all of that stuff happen and I took a long break from posting videos, I figured when I started posting again, if I don't bring you guys something new about Benoit, you might not be too happy about that. So I pushed this video aside, and since it's a holiday, I figured that I would just publish this video that I had made that it has to do with Benoit, but more on the fringes. So in this video, I'm going to do a brief timeline of the Kendrick Johnson investigation with a particular focus on agencies and individuals that were also involved in the Benoit case, specifically the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab and the Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Kris Sperry. And we're going to take a look at some possible corruption going on within the higher ranks of these investigating agencies. And then from there, we're going to go into some other forensic investigations that Dr. Sperry was a part of and the corruption involved with those. And I'll probably have to break this down into more than one part because there's a lot to cover. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future videos. And if you like what you see here and you would like to support my research, you will find in the description box below a link to my Cash App, followed by a link to a video with a brief description for how to donate. And now that all of that's out of the way, let's get right into the video. So to start this off, I want to go over Dr. Sperry's role in the Kendrick Johnson case. And I've mentioned this in previous videos, and you can do a search on YouTube and find all kinds of videos about Kendrick Johnson's death. And clearly there's more to that case than just a simple accidental death. And Dr. Sperry's involvement was as chief medical examiner at the GBI, which is the same role he played in the Benoit investigation. And he claims that this was 100% an accidental death. So what I hope to accomplish with this video is to provide a few examples of known corruption within the Georgia Bureau of Investigation so that you can make up your own mind whether or not you feel that perhaps the Benoit investigation wasn't so squeaky clean either, especially when you consider the high-profile nature of the Benoit crimes compared to the others that we'll talk about today. And there's a video here, and I'd just play the video, but I don't really want to take the chance of getting another copyright claim on my channel because the WWE blocked my video about Sonny and the Hall of Fame because of a 10-second clip that I used, which I don't understand because I use the entrance video for Benoit at the beginning of almost all my videos, and they don't really give a shit about that, but I use a 10-second clip of McAfee getting the stunner, and 3 weeks after I publish the video, WWE decides that it needs to be blocked for copyright violations and blocked it in all regions, so nobody can see that video. Thank you, WWE. But this case about Kendrick Johnson, it says, the Georgia Chief Medical Examiner, who is Dr. Sperry, is standing by his agency's ruling that a high school student's bizarre death was a freak accident. And it goes on to say, that his parents and others, they don't believe it was an accident. They believe it was an intentional homicide. But Dr. Kris Sperry told Channel 2 investigative reporter that he's willing to stake his reputation on the controversial case. Is it possible Kendrick Johnson's death was a homicide? The reporter asked Sperry, and Sperry answered, no, it's not. I'd stake my reputation on the findings that the doctors in my office find every single day. Sperry said even before Johnson's death drew national attention, it drew his attention, and he consulted with Dr. Marianne Gaffney Kraft at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Macon Crime Lab on how the death occurred. Reportedly, the young man's body was found rolled up in a wrestling mat at his high school, and Sperry says he believes Kendrick lost a shoe that fell down in the center of this mat. He went down to try to get it and had his arms extended trying to reach down and slipped and could not get out. So Sperry says the toxicology tests at the state crime lab by GBI headquarters and DNA testing did nothing to alter the state's conclusions. Now, this is why I want to use this as a comparison with the Benoit case, because this is the same lab that did the Benoit toxicology. Kendrick Johnson's parents, they want to know what happened. Sperry says, I don't blame them at all. The father says about the surveillance video, well, that was obviously doctored. There were pieces of it missing. And the camera, it wasn't working in one area, I think. How many times have we heard that lately? The GBI would have absolutely no motive to cover up anything, Sperry said. Well, they might if you take into consideration the fact that an FBI agent's son may have had something to do with the death of Kendrick Johnson. This article is from July 24th, 2015, and it says that federal marshals with a warrant seized emails from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office related to the federal grand jury investigation into Kendrick Johnson's death. They also seized cell phones, computers, and other electronics from the Jacksonville, Florida area home of FBI agent Rick Bell, whose two sons went to school with Johnson. Similar searches were conducted on his two brothers who live elsewhere and a girlfriend of one of the brothers. The links to these articles are below, but you've got two children of an FBI agent who may have had something to do with Kendrick Johnson's death. But it goes beyond just the accusation. They wouldn't have been able to get a warrant to seize this property without probable cause. So that raid happened in July of 2015, but there's even more to this story. Because 1 year before that warrant was served to that FBI agent and the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department, on July 29th, 2014, that was when Kendrick Johnson's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit. And the lawsuit was filed against school officials, claiming that their lack of action led to Kendrick's death at the hands of another student. And of course, this student mentioned here is the son of that FBI agent Bell. And then following their filing of the wrongful death civil suit against the school, Kendrick Johnson's parents file another $100 million lawsuit. According to this article, in addition to the wrongful death civil lawsuit, the parents of Kendrick Johnson have filed a $100 million lawsuit against elected officials and law enforcement officials, alleging that a local FBI agent encouraged his sons, who were schoolmates of Kendrick Johnson, to, quote, violently assault the teen. And it's a local FBI agent. And this is the state of Georgia, same state as Benoit. This article also says that the lawsuit names 38 defendants, including the local FBI agent, his two sons, and another schoolmate of Johnson. And it goes on to say that this lawsuit also alleges that other officials conspired to cover up their 17-year-old son's murder. I'm gotta try to curb using these words. YouTube doesn't like me using these words, and they put limited monetization on my videos. So I need to figure out a way to censor these words, but worry about that another time. Because holy crap, they're saying in this lawsuit that officials conspired with other officials to cover up this crime, and that these officials included workers with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. And that's the same place that did the autopsies and the toxicology tests and provided all of those results for the Benoit crimes. You see what I'm kind of getting at here? And according to this article, the lawsuit also alleges the local police department, the local sheriff's department, and even all the city officials of Valdosta, Georgia were in on this conspiracy. Then the FBI agent and his sons filed a countersuit against Kendrick Johnson's parents, claiming defamation. And it's at this point in this timeline when the federal marshals had a warrant and seized email from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, as well as seizing cell phones, computers, and other electronics from the Jacksonville, Florida area home of the FBI agent Rick Bell. This article also says similar searches were conducted on the two brothers, or the sons of the FBI agent, the schoolmates of Johnson, and a girlfriend of one of the brothers. And like I said earlier in the video, they would not have been able to get this warrant without probable cause. So that was on July 21st and 22nd of 2015. And then after that raid, this is the balls of these people. So even after this raid in August of 2015, they actually rallied a group of former FBI agents to put pressure on then Attorney General Loretta Lynch, asking her to put an end to the investigation. Now, I don't know about you, but personally, I think that if they didn't have anything to hide, then they wouldn't try to shut down this investigation. So then in March of the following year, 2016, Kendrick Johnson's parents decide to drop the wrongful death lawsuits, the lawsuit against the school and the lawsuit alleging the massive cover-up by state and local law enforcement, school officials, and the state medical examiner's office. And remember, the chief medical examiner at the time was Dr. Kris Sperry, the same medical examiner in the Benoit crime. But this article says that the Johnson family likely decided to drop the lawsuit because attorneys for the Bell family, and Bell is the name of the FBI agent, they argued that Kendrick Johnson's parents had introduced no credible evidence and asked the judge to issue a summary judgment. And so the Johnson family dropped the lawsuits, which is a shame because they were only looking for answers and they were pretty much bullied by the government to just drop it. But another way to look at it is that could have been a very strategic move, because if the judge had issued a judgment, he could have dismissed the Johnson family lawsuit with prejudice, which would mean the family couldn't bring up this lawsuit again. And to try to avoid that situation from occurring, it's possible that at the advice of a really great attorney, they decided to voluntarily dismiss their lawsuits. And it says here that a civil lawsuit can be dismissed voluntarily for a variety of reasons. Then the plaintiff, in this case the Johnson family, would be able to choose whether they did want to dismiss the case with prejudice or without prejudice. Obviously, they chose to dismiss the case without prejudice, which leaves the option of refiling the case open for the future. And I think that that's likely what's going on, because it says here that as an example of voluntary dismissal without prejudice, that if you find out prior to the court date that you expect that you might be on the verge of obtaining new evidence, you can voluntarily choose to dismiss your case without prejudice so that you can reorganize and then refile the claim again in the future. So it was more likely a very smart strategic move to just drop it before the judge could issue that summary judgment and possibly dismiss the case with prejudice, thereby blocking any future civil litigation into this crime. And from what I'm seeing, it looks like this isn't over yet, because in March of 2021, the Johnson family revealed they have obtained an audio confession. The sheriff's office is refusing to release it to the public, but has confirmed that this tape exists. But then a month later, in May of 2021, they said that the confession tape was just a hoax. It says that the man's name and the audio clip cannot be released because the investigation is ongoing. It's a 25-second recording, and the Lowndes County Sheriff has determined that this is a terrible hoax. But they do know who the man is. They found him in a motel and they're familiar with him. The sheriff goes on to say that in his opinion, this person is a pathological liar, that he's been convicted of giving false statements, so they're not going to just completely rely on his statements. But I don't know. Is this a hoax, or is this just more of this cover-up stuff going on here? I don't know. What do you think? Comment below. But still, apparently there's some evidence that was kept under seal, and it looks like after reviewing this evidence that the Lowndes County Sheriff has decided that the case would be reopened. It says here it was reopened after reviewing previously sealed evidence. Why it was sealed? You can speculate right along with me there. I have my own theories, but I'm more interested in what you think, so I can't wait to read your comments. What do you think? Do you think that there's evidence that is sealed in this Benoit case that they're not telling us is sealed and that just has been quietly removed from the documents? Maybe I don't have all of the information. That's definitely something to consider. But then you need to ask yourself, what would be so serious that they would need to hide something, that they would need to seal evidence? And who would benefit from having this evidence sealed away from public scrutiny? What do you think might have been going on? And again, I don't know. I'll have no way of knowing if any evidence was removed from those documents that the Fayette County Sheriff gave me when I filed the open records request. We find ourselves in a position where we need to trust in these investigative officials that they're doing the job that they are meant to be doing, that they're interested in seeking justice more than they're interested in covering up their mistakes or their own involvement. And if we have this level of corruption and cover-up in the investigation of the death of a 17-year-old boy from a town in Georgia, then just imagine the scale of corruption and cover-up that could be taking place in all kinds of matters all over the country. Let that sink in. The most recent update that I was able to find on this case, as far as just doing an internet search, was January 31st of this year. The Lowndes County Sheriff, it says he's putting up $500,000 of his own money for a reward for anyone to come forward with information about the Kendrick Johnson murder. And it says down here that this case was reopened in March of 2021, which I'm happy to see because this family deserves answers, and not just any answers, they deserve the truth. And what FBI government agents are doing to this family is disgusting. I have no kind words to say about these agents and their entitled children, but I will say this about this sheriff offering his own money for people to come forward with information. Consider this. Remember that audio recording of the alleged confession? In the article we looked at, where this same sheriff claimed that the confession was a terrible hoax, it says that the Johnson family provided that audio recording to the sheriff's office, and that the family received this recording by paying $1,000 to the man who had the tape. So knowing that little nugget of information just makes me feel like this offer of a $500,000 reward maybe isn't as generous as it appears on the surface. And it's likely just a way to encourage potential informants to contact the sheriff's office rather than the Johnson family directly, in a pretty sick attempt to stay ahead of the narrative, if you know what I mean. So if anybody's watching who might know anything about this case, I encourage you to just contact the family. Cut out the middleman, because you just never know. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this and what happens and how this turns out. And if there's any accountability for the people in the FBI who tried to cover this up, and for the chief medical examiner, Dr. Sperry, who, remember, from the beginning of this video, we found out that Dr. Sperry would stake his reputation on the findings that the doctors in his office at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Crime Lab find every day. And Dr. Sperry also said the GBI would have absolutely no motive to cover up anything. Well, from where I'm sitting, I think that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation may indeed have motive to cover up something. And if we look at these cases that involved the same people and same agencies as the Benoit case, and we can find all of this suspicious activity, then logically, we cannot rule out that corruption had a role in the Benoit investigation. At least, that's where I personally stand at this point. What do you think? Feel free to comment below. I'd love to read it. All these links are below. You can read all these articles on your own time. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see here and you appreciate the research that I'm putting into this, also in the description box, you'll find a link to my Cash App, followed by a link to a video with very simple instructions for how to donate. Any contribution is greatly appreciated. But getting back to that first article we were looking at about Dr. Sperry staking his reputation on Kendrick Johnson's death being just a tragic accident. This right here, Sperry said that the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, which is the county where the federal marshals had the warrant to seize emails and other property from, and that raid took place 2 years after this article where Sperry stakes his reputation on their findings. So it was that Lowndes County Sheriff's Office that was the lead agency on the case, and the GBI's role was to provide medical examiner and crime lab services, as it does in thousands of cases each year. And that's precisely the way it worked with the Benoit case. It was the Fayette County Sheriff's Office that was the lead agency on the investigation, and the GBI's role was to provide the toxicology services. For some reason, for the Benoits, as you can see in one of my previous videos, they outsourced the DNA testing to a private company in Texas, and I find that very interesting. But my point here is, Dr. Sperry says he will stake his reputation on that. So he must have a really awesome reputation then in the state of Georgia with the GBI, am I right? So let's take a look at that. So now here we are in 2015, the date October 3rd, 2015, from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So this is a Georgia newspaper. Outside work challenges medical examiner's credibility and judgment. So, oh my goodness, what is this? He would stake his reputation on Kendrick Johnson being an accident, right? And keep in mind these dates. This article is from October 3rd of 2015. So this challenge to Dr. Sperry's credibility and judgment, this happened after the marshals raided the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office and FBI agent Bell's home in Florida. Interesting timeline of events, huh? So let's take a look at some examples of this outside work that Dr. Sperry was doing while he was chief medical examiner. And we're gonna have to pick up from there in a follow-up to this video, because I do have more I want to talk about with this Dr. Kris Sperry, because he's quite a character. Probably isn't going to be the very next video following this one, because I am working on some other Benoit stuff I want to get out. But I'll have it titled so that you know what's what. So don't forget to like and share this with anyone you think might be interested. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that little bell while you're down there so you get notified for future videos. And don't forget, there is a link in the description box to my Cash App if you would like to make a contribution to the channel. And as always, I thank you so much for watching. This has been AmK at Purple Sky 11, and I hope you have a great Independence Day. Bye!